founder and director of Be the Peace, and I am going to be your teacher and guide in this episode of Breath Break. This week, we're going to be focusing on horizontal versus vertical breathing. Now, something we normally don't pay attention to at all, the direction and movement of our breath. In a normal breath, we activate the muscles underneath and in between our ribs and our rib cage, and a little bit of our abdominal muscle, the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a muscle that sits in between the lungs and the abdominal cavity. Really powerful, strong muscle. So, normally, in a normal breath where we're completely unconscious because we breathe, whether or not we are conscious of it, it's one of those, it's a process that just happens all throughout the day, no matter what. Such an incredible mechanism. So usually we're just activating our abdominal cavity through the diaphragm and the muscles in between the ribs and in the rib cage, intercostal muscles. So we expand outwards and upwards, as most of the movement tends to be horizontal with a little bit of vertical through the movement of that diaphragm. Now, what I'm going to invite you to experiment in this week's breath break is engaging more consciously the vertical breath, which means pulling that diaphragm down by exaggerating the outward movement of the belly. Now, why on earth would we want to do that? First of all, in doing that, we stretch as we stretch down that muscle, as we move that muscle down by exaggerating the outward movement of the belly, our lungs can bring in more air, more oxygen. So we can increase the capacity of bringing in oxygen in every single breath. Has great health benefits for our physical body and for our mind as well. It evens things out. The other thing that happens that's really super important is in our lungs, there's about 300 million little tiny grains of sand or sand-like size of sacs, the alveoli. These alveoli are key to our respiratory system because that's where the exchange happens between oxygen and carbon dioxide in our lungs. And when we breathe vertically as opposed to horizontally, the capacity for our alveoli increases. That stretching downwards has an impact on our alveoli so that they can bring in more fresh air. It also helps the whole cycle of breath, because what we're trying to do is make sure we bring in as much fresh oxygen and that we completely breathe out all of the carbon dioxide as well. So there's no stale air left in our lungs as a residual, right? We want to have that movement all the time. So bringing that diaphragm down more gives us more capacity. It enables the alveoli to bring in, to be more round, right? We don't want them too flat. We really want to take care and nourish and look after those alveoli. So what the vertical breathing does is looks after that function. Lastly, in doing the vertical breathing, we're engaging our diaphragm immensely. Engaging the diaphragm also means that we're massaging all those important organs in our belly. So we're going to go ahead and practice all of this so that you can get a sense of the difference between vertical and horizontal and vertical breathing, and so that you can start practicing it as well. So we have touched on this already in other breath breaks. I just wanted to highlight this one specific function today, that vertical versus horizontal movement. It's like I said, majority of our unconscious breathing happens more horizontally. And what we want to do is start to reprogram our breath so that it happens more vertically. It's the most efficient way of bringing in oxygen. It's the least amount of work for the most amount of benefits. The abdominal muscles, specifically the diaphragm, it's less work for it to move up and down than for us to engage in our chest and clavicular cavities. The muscles there's more muscles, it takes more work. So we want less work. Also helps our heart as well. It means that our heart doesn't have to work as hard. So let's get started. Get nice and comfortable sitting with your spine straight. A lot of these exercises that I've been doing are ones that you can do either lying down or sitting up. But today it's really important for us to practice sitting up. It's going to help facilitate the vertical movement by sitting upright. So close your eyes and take a few breaths. First, just to bring yourself fully present, and allow any activity that you've been engaged in, immersed in, events from the day, to just slide away, dissolve. So that you're 100% present with your body and with your breath. And without changing anything, just notice the movement of your breath. Notice where your breath goes in your body and how it feels. Specifically, tune into your chest and your belly and notice the movement. Let's start by just placing our hands over our rib cage. And just feel the movement of the ribs moving forward, up, and out. with each breath. That's your horizontal breathing. And just make the breath long and deep, without pushing, without too much effort, without straining anything. It's like meeting your capacity and staying within a zone of being cozy, comfortable. Now shift and place your hands on your belly. And with each inhalation, bring air and expand out that belly with the fullness of your breath, of your inhalation. And visualize the movement of your diaphragm, that incredible muscle. It's a dome-like muscle that sits at the bottom of your rib cage, in between your lungs and your digestive system and your liver. Got kidneys, pancreas there. Be aware that with each inhalation, you're pulling that diaphragm downwards, and it massages amazingly up against those organs and expands your lungs so that air is pulled in. Have a sense of those lungs being stretched downwards. Downwards and a little bit outwards, down and out, through the movement of that diaphragm. Making the breath slow, smooth, soft. Have a slight smile. Be friendly towards yourself. And with each each exhalation, the movement's more passive. You just relax the belly. You relax the diaphragm. You relax the rib cage. There's no need to force with this exercise. Let's just add a count to it, where you inhale 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4, inhale 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4, inhale 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4, inhale 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4. And just relax the breath completely. Relax your hands. Slowly, gradually, open your eyes and come back. So that's your breath break for today. I hope you take some time this week just practicing vertical breathing. Activate it by expanding that belly out, strengthening and increasing the use of the diaphragm, an incredible muscle that sits between the lungs and your abdominal cavity. So many benefits here for all your physical and mental well-being. Change your breath and you change your life. Thanks for joining me this week on Breath Break. I hope to see you next week.